Therri should be here shortly. Tell her what you have told me. Do not worry about going into much detail. Okay, you are the boss.
Herr Aschenbach, Mr. Moritz, thank you for coming today.
I'm turning it over to Detective Moritz, and I will let him explain what he has found. Please feel free to ask any questions and we will discuss where we go after this.
You know me, I do not have problems speaking up. When you are ready, Mr. Moritz.
Thank you, Ms. Beecham. Let me start by saying, much of what I saw, know and have found out, I have not yet told the police. Some of it I cannot prove, and some of it was obtained in a manner that would put me in jeopardy or would not be admissible in court. But my task was to find out who, what, and why.
I understand and accept that. Go on.
Well, first of all, I witnessed the murder of the man found on your job site.
Oh my God, that is terrible.
The worst part is that it is directly related to you. I saw and knew who killed him, and have subsequently identified the man who was killed.
Tell me, who were they?
The murderer was a man named Viktor Chaniak. You have met him.
I most certainly have not. I don't associate with murderers.
But you do, Miss Beecham. He was the man who attempted to kidnap you.
No, Mr. Moritz, you must be mistaken. The man who attempted to kidnap me is in prison.
Not anymore.
What? How? When?
He got out on a technicality. In layman's terms, someone bribed someone who told someone who let him go free.
That is absurd.
But true, I'm afraid.
What was he doing on my job site?
Evidently he was there to kill.
Who was the man he killed?
That was a man named Karl Gruber. We believe he was responsible for the scaffolding accident. He was an employee of Karl Neubauer.
Did Karl know him?
Again, evidently he was a new hire and his papers were forged, and then when asked by the police disappeared. I'm also sure he is the man who savagely attacked Mr. Jordan.
How do you know that?
Mr. Jordan confronted him on a job site.
Did Jax really go to the site? The police told him to stay away. I cannot believe he did that, or that he did not tell me.
I saw him there myself. I assume he told no one else because the police do not seem to have this information. I am also convinced he threatened and maybe killed Frau Griswold. Again, I cannot prove it, but Karl had spoken to her shortly before she died and she told him she had bad feelings about him. Further investigation and some helpful tips from inside the police department, I have been able to find out that Mr. Chaniak and Mr. Gruber were partners in crime. Both had criminal records, mostly for assault and burglary. It seems they were working for someone or some organization. Neither had regular income, but both were paid cash by an anonymous person, but through a company called Burtwater Beton AG. It is a shell company, part of a series of shell companies. As I previously told Herr Aschenbach, I bugged and tracked Mr. Chaniak's car and phone and followed him to a fancy office on Herrengasse. There he met with someone in a company called Watson Industries. It is run by a gentleman named Robert Watson.
Okay, so what is the connection to me?
Well, patience and we will get there. With some more discreet detective work, I found out that Viktor Chaniak is now the personal bodyguard and driver for the owner of Watson Industries, our Mr. Robert Watson.
What is his business?
That is an excellent question. I have hired at some expense a forensic accountant to do a financial investigation into Watson Industries. Whatever they do, they are shadowy and very secretive. That sends red flags up. It could be Russian mafia money laundering. It could be African diamond smugglers. It could be drugs. It could be human trafficking and prostitution. I've not got a final report. Whatever it is not open or transparent. A very odd thing about Mr. Robert Watson is that although he claims to be British, has only officially existed for about 5 to 6 years. His social media presence is the minimum that one would expect for a CEO of a company, but personally there is little information about him older than 6 years. Now again, I cannot prove it, but it could mean a couple of things. As clearly not he says he is, so he could be Russian mafia on the lam. He could be in some CIA witness protection program, or he could be someone who for whatever reason created himself anew.
So if this Chiriac and Goober duo were out to get me, it would seem that they were doing on the direction of someone else, right?
Very perceptive, Ms. Beecham. And also my conclusion. Would you care to guess who I think the person may be?
Robert Watson. But why? I do not even think I know him. What would he have against me?
That is the billion-dollar question.
Well, that is all very interesting, Mr. Moritz.
Do you want to hear the strangest part?
There is more.
Oh yes, and it is good.
Well then, by all means, please proceed.
Do you remember we found a handprint and DNA on the site of Frau Griswold's apartment?
Yes, and?
Well, the handprint belonged to Victor Chansiak. That alone will put him in prison for murder for life.
Why haven't they arrested him?
Another good question. But it seems he has a very powerful benefactor. Someone is paying people to look the other way.
For murder. Really, why?
That I do not know, my dear. What I do know, and the police will soon find out, will shock you. Fair warning.
It cannot get any weirder.
Do not bet on that. Do you remember the DNA?
Okay.
Well, it seems the person who left the DNA is closely related to you.
What? That is impossible. There must be some mistake.
The DNA proves that whoever left that cigarette filter at Frau Griswold's was either a first cousin or a half-sibling.
My brother is dead. My father is dead, and my mother is too drunk and in love with her boy toy to bother. I do not have a first cousin. I have several distant relatives on my mother's side, but otherwise I am the last of the Hobenthalers.
Not according to the DNA.